moving right into recruiting for the Clemson Tigers. 2026, 2025 is in the books. We are on to 2026, Jordan. And we're going to specifically focus on the offensive recruiting tonight. Obviously, we got the greatest offensive line coach in the country, Matt Luke, who is hard at or was hard at work. We're in a recruiting dead period, so don't worry. Matt Luke is not talking to recruits right now. I promise, NCAA. Just chill out, okay? But he was hard working on the recruiting trail, burning up the jet fuel, going from place to place, seeing offensive lineman after offensive lineman, expanded Clemson's board a bit for this 2026 class and who we're gonna bring on. But
the offensive line is going to be a priority, and it's been very clear if any of you guys are following recruiting, the offensive line is one of the biggest priorities in this class. I mean, you have a lot of guys that are potentially going to be leaving after this season, and you're going to have to restock the cupboard a good bit. So, and you've seen Matt Luke kind of expand the board for the offensive line in a way that most positions for Clemson you usually don't see. There are, I believe, 13 offers out right now, with potentially more to come. So this has been a very, very big priority for this class, and a lot of big time targets. I think one of the emphases, I guess I should say, for the offensive line and for Matt Luke was beefing up this offensive line, continuing to get more size, and you can see it by the guys that you see right here on the target list. You have one current commit in Braden Wilms, who is 6'8". So I mean that kind of tells you the whole story right there. But there are a lot of really talented guys and guys that I think Clemson is going to be pushing really hard for. There's quite a few of these guys that will be at the elite retreat on March 8th. I got to zoom in because I cannot see. I am blind. I don't want to focus on all of these guys because some of these guys I believe are trending elsewhere. But starting with Maxwell Riley from Ohio, Clemson, Ohio State battle. One of the things that is kind of swung that recruitment kind of in more of a flux. He was considered an Ohio State lean, but Ohio State recently lost their offensive line coach Justin Frye to the NFL. And Clemson has done a really good job recruiting him. Maxwell Riley, Matt Luke has visited him multiple times. He is probably, I would say that he is the number one guy, I think, on the board that they're pushing for right now. I feel like they would love to get him if they can. So big deal. And then and if you scroll down, there is another Ohio offensive lineman that you are also battling Ohio State for, in Adam Guthrie. I believe he just recently received a few crystal balls on On3 and on 24/7 Sports. Another recruitment that was definitely helped in Clemson's direction by Justin Frye going to the NFL. So those guys, I think, are guys that Clemson is really, really high on. Some of the other guys on this board, Carter Scruggs, I think, is going to be probably a Penn State, Georgia type of battle. I'm not sure that he's going to make it to the elite retreat. Who is that underneath Adam Guthrie? Yep, Zion Giles, in-state offensive lineman. I think this is a Ohio State, Clemson, South Carolina battle. I think that's going to go down the stretch, and we'll see kind of how the official visits shake out. But I think that's one that you're going toe-to-toe with your in-state rival. Would be a really nice win because you have not been winning those in-state battles as of late. And I think it would be a good pickup for Clemson if they were able to win it, just even just for optics standpoint. Let's see. I already talked about Braden Wilms. You go down to the interior offensive lineman, Darius Gray. Another guy I think is probably trending elsewhere, but he does have an official visit lined up to Clemson on that May 30th date. but I do think that South Carolina is probably the team to beat right now. We'll see how that goes. Would be a really massive get, and obviously with Clemson, you never know because that official visit can change a lot of things. And getting him on campus first, sometimes that ends up being the difference. Leo Delaney, I think, is a guy that Clemson is in really good position for at Providence Day. I already mentioned Lonnie Galloway, the hire of Lonnie Galloway and the connections he has at Providence Day. I believe that will play a role in this recruitment. I think Tennessee is your main competition there. As I've talked about, Tennessee has been sweeping up the Charlotte area, and particularly Providence Day. As you know, they won that recruitment for David Sanders this past cycle. So I think Leo Delaney, another guy that's really, really high on their board, and one that I think a recruitment that Clemson can win. Tyler Merrill committed to Notre Dame. Not going to mention him. Grant Wise is a guy that I think Clemson is still very much in for. His recruitment is still kind of shaking out a little bit. Chancellor Galloway, or I'm sorry, oh my gosh, I cannot read. Chancellor Barclay, another guy whose recruitment is still kind of he hasn't been pushing to narrow his list down. I think his recruitment is still kind of taking off, but Clemson has done a really good job with him. And they've made him kind of a priority as well. Then you have Desmond Green, another in-state battle, I think, between Clemson and South Carolina, and Georgia is also in the mix. I think that one's going to come down to the official visits as well. And then Bear McWhorter, a guy that Clemson really likes, but is scheduled to commit, I believe, on the 28th. Alabama, I think, is probably going to end up winning that one. But you see kind of the list, and you see the size, especially when you look at the size of some of these guys, the height and the length, and some of the positional versatility that they have. That's kind of been the emphasis for this class. They want guys that with length and size, but they can also move and play a couple of different positions, because Clemson does love to have guys that can come in and play multiple positions. So really, really strong group of guys. A lot of these guys will be at the elite retreat. A couple of other names that of unoffered guys. 4-star offensive tackle Zayden Crimpin from Prosper, Texas. He is also going to be at the elite retreat as well. I expect him to get an offer pretty soon. And also a 3-star interior offensive lineman, Malcolm Gaston from North Augusta in South Carolina. He's a guy that I think Clemson is also kind of keeping an eye on, and we'll kind of see what happens probably into spring. So that kind of wraps up that offensive line board. I plan to do a series here pretty soon where I get to go in depth on some of these guys. But just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of some of the guys, the names to know, and kind of where Clemson is standing right now as we kind of get into the spring, and pretty soon, before you know it, we'll be in official visit season, and that's when your money is made. That's when the bread is buttered, whatever kind of expression you want to use. So massive class for this group, and for Clemson, because like I mentioned, you're going to have a lot of guys leave after this season, more than likely. And so it's going to be important that you restock the cupboard with guys that you are high on, that you think will be able to develop. A couple of impact guys would be great. But I think the profile of this group is really, really good for what Clemson wants to be offensively along the offensive line. And Matt Luke has done as good a job as anybody in the country right now. He's been working tirelessly. So really excited to see how this class shakes out. We're still in the beginning stages for some of these guys, and some guys, you're not going to win every single recruiting battle, but I think, if you can come out of here with, 5 or 6 guys in this class, I think that would be a really, really big deal for this, this line moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll turn out to be a really good class. Have all the faith in the world in Matt Luke and his ability to pull some of these guys from places like Ohio State and Tennessee, and programs that we go head to head with all the time on on the recruiting trail. So stay tuned for more recruiting news, guys. Obviously, Clemson's got that big official or big recruiting weekend, junior day, if you will, elite junior day, whatever you want to call it, on March 8th. That list is still, I think, being ironed out, but we got a lot of big time recruits coming to that weekend. I think the list is up to maybe 25, 28, somewhere in there, Jordan, of guys that are committed to coming to that elite junior weekend. So it's going to be a big weekend for Clemson. Obviously, that's the big recruiting weekend that was supposed to happen in January. January 25th was the original scheduled date for it. But with the turnover of the coaching staff and still trying to get the defensive coordinator locked in, which ultimately ended up being Tom Allen, they moved it to March 8th to give that time, a little bit of time to settle in between hiring a new DC and having a big recruiting weekend where there's going to be a lot of guys on campus. So looking forward to that recruiting weekend. Looking forward to, some of these guys committing to Clemson. Obviously, the big recruiting weekend happening in June for Clemson every summer. So that'll be another big one. And I think a lot more of these guys will be ironed out or trending closer to whatever direction they're going to go by that time.